Hello and welcome to Board You Not Entertained. I'm Daniel.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm James.
And on this glorious evening, we're going to be talking about The Green Knight. I almost called it the wrong name.
Title.
I don't know why.
The Glorious Night.
Yeah, The Glorious Night. On this glorious night.
This glorious movie. This was awesome, man.
Oh, this movie was breathtaking.
It was really cool. No, I mean, I don't know that I'd go as far as saying breathtaking, but I mean, it was a really good movie. Lots of people hate it.
Really?
Lots of people hate it.
For what?
Which is surprising considering it's got a 7.5 fan score. With all the 1 and 2 star reviews I've read for this movie, I expected that score to be lower. So there must just be tons of people showing it the love it deserves, in my opinion. Most of what I've seen that's negative is genuinely a lot of people that don't understand it and maybe don't keep up with it. I've seen complaints about the dialogue being too complicated and hard to understand.
What? Compared to most medieval like period pieces, I would say that this was fairly easy to understand compared to those.
Yeah, and plenty of complaints you'd expect that this has nothing to do with the poem, which it does. It actually follows the poem incredibly well. If you've ever read it.
Except for what actually transpires. The events are the same, but from what I understand, Gawain or Gawain or however you say his name does different things in the movie compared to the poem.
Yeah, so the way his virtue's tested is a little bit different in the film, and spoiler, the end outcome is different, except they don't technically show you an end outcome
in the movie.
Yeah. So you don't know. Possibly this does follow back along with the poem. They did make one massive change, which I think really helped the tone. The change of his mother, I thought was a particularly good one. It added
into Morgan instead of Morgan's sister.
Instead of just being Morgause. Yeah, I thought that was such a cool touch because it cuts down on some of the characters, which is fine. You know, just give her all the power. But it's also a little more sinister because she's not just testing a knight, she's testing her son.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways to kind of see that too. Because, you know, like you said earlier, spoiler alert, I'm going to spoil the hell out of this movie. So if you haven't seen it, I would recommend going and watching it first. There's a lot of ambiguity in this movie, questioning that happens.
Yeah.
It could be interpreted that Morgan Le Fay, his mother, was leading him for a path to the throne, because typically Morgan Le Fay has always, a lot of the time, been represented as much more of an antagonist to Arthur and Guinevere. And especially with her giving him the green sash, yes, that could have been a test to see whether he actually becomes brave and doesn't use it, or it could be the thing that causes him to run away and become king.
Right.
And so she still could have that more sinister perspective, and that she has encompassed a lot of the times in different Arthurian legends. But it doesn't necessarily need to be that way either. It could be either way. And that's the thing I kind of love about this, is that it doesn't just spell it out for you. And it has a lot of allegory and meaning and metaphor in it. And it is kind of a quintessential hero's journey, where it is the journey itself and not the destination that changes the hero. Yeah. And I absolutely loved every bit of it, and I have never seen like heavy medieval night movie that has no battle scenes.
Yeah, I think they went about this in such a different way in my thoughts of what you expect out of a rendition of a medieval poem, but also the typical Arthurian sort of mythology. They didn't make this about him being some big glorious fighter.
Right.
It is more about self-discovery, and he doesn't get it right all the time. And I think that that's so good and so pivotal and something that you don't see. It makes him human and more relatable in that way.
Yeah.
That he does make mistakes along the way, and he does step up and fix them, but
yeah,
there are definitely missteps, and nothing's perfect.
Well, just because he's human. He was doing nothing but making mistakes prior to his journey, kind of wasting his life is kind of how they portrayed it. Yeah, there's a lot of things about this movie that I really enjoy and I really like. The thing that kind of, I guess, got me is how it was. I guess the previews for it sold it as a little more adventurous. Like it'd be a little more upbeat and a little more actiony, not necessarily like fighting or anything like that, but like there would be a faster pace that would carry the tone through the movie. And maybe they just did that with music, but that was not the case.
They definitely previewed this like a Lord of the Rings sort of adventure fantasy.
Yeah, it just seemed a little bit slower than I was expecting. And that's, often when we see movies and you don't like something about it, it's often based off of your own expectations. And that's definitely the case for me in this instance, is that, the preview showed me something and I was like, oh, okay. And then when I saw the movie, it was something different, which happens a lot.
Yeah.
But the story was great. The acting was great. Yeah, we heard people in the theater that we were in saying that the movie was horrible.
Wow.
Read reviews of people that walked out of the theater.
Yeah, there were people in our theater that you could hear saying it was the worst movie they've ever seen in their entire life. Yeah. And
they're doing good if that's the case.
I did see some
right.
some reviews on this that were combative in the sense of, if you thought this movie was terrible or you didn't understand the dialogue, you should just stick to Fast and the Furious.
I was going to say, they're showing Space Jam in the next theater over.
Which, it's a diss, but yeah, there's some truth to that, because this was not, as far as dialogue and central theme, this was not incredibly complicated. It doesn't spell it out for you, which I think is better for an interpretation of an old poem like this, because everything's open to interpretation, right? No two people will read it and get the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and for the people that walked out of the theater, I'm like, you don't know shit. You can't talk to me about this movie. You didn't watch it till the end, so your opinion is based off nothing. But for the people that have watched this and hated it, I have to think that it's the ending. That's really the only thing. Other than maybe
I could see where
slow.
That could bother certain people.
Yeah. Other than maybe it was slow, it would have to be the ending. Because you don't know, like there is no real ending. You have his what do you call it?
As far as plot goes, yes. But as far as I think the theme of it, I felt like there was a definite ending.
Well, yeah. For the purpose of what it's trying to tell you, yes. But for the story itself, no.
True.
Yeah, the message is there, and is tied off with a nice little bow at the very end. But for what happens, no. There's off with your head. Are you really going to cut his head off, or are you just saying that?
Well, there's two different ways to read that specifically that I've thought either was thinking of or have heard from others. And you have the off with your head. He's going to chop his head off and give him what he gave to the knight.
Yeah.
Or it is off, like be gone, comma, with your head.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's
because he does kind of look towards the door when he says it too. He looks up from going to the door.
Yeah, I thought there was more of a tone of respect for him finally finding his courage. So with them ending it where they did, you don't know what happened.
Right.
But also the really nice metaphor of his taking off the belt. It's either standing on his own 2 feet, but it's also finally letting go of his mother.
Mm-hmm.
He's finally separating himself.
Yeah, the sash is, kind of representative of like parental protection, or even, the cowardice and weakness perceived in childhood, and that it's the taking off of the sash to face your destiny, no matter what it comes, is the chivalrous courage that was respected at that time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But yes, for everyone complaining that the acting was terrible in this movie,
what?
You've never seen good acting, because this was incredible.
This was phenomenal acting. How does Dev Patel not have an Oscar? Does he have an Oscar?
No, but he's been nominated, just not one.
That's insane.
He has done some incredible films in the past few years.
He's been a part of some really, really good movies.
Yeah, he's made some really phenomenal choices. I mean, after he did Skins, I think he just decided all he wants to do is these projects that are important to him, not Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Didn't he get a nomination for Lion?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, he's done whatever. That's the number of awesome movies that he's done are just kind of crazy, because Slumdog Millionaire, Lion,
The Personal History of David Copperfield. That deserves so much more recognition than it got.
Hotel Mumbai.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just he does a great job. I think that and I haven't seen all of his movies, but I think any movie that he's in is going to be a specific caliber.
Except for one, but yes. Outside of Avatar: The Last Airbender, I'm with you.
Well, yeah.
But he's also talked about that's the only movie he's allowed himself to be pushed into, and it was a mistake. But anyways, moving back to The Grey Knight, because wow, everybody was great in this. Alicia Vikander was so good, and Joel Edgerton was so good and so like creepy without reason exactly to be creepy.
Without what?
Well, there wasn't anything specific he did that was wrong or deliberately to make you feel uncomfortable, but you never just felt content about his situation with them.
No,
there was always some weird, uncomfortableness in the way that he clearly knew more than Gawain when he said that I'll make the bargain with you where you get my hunting profits if you give me in return for giving me whatever you get while staying at the house. So what would I get at the house? You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Right.
And so exactly what he meant by that was even after seeing the movie still feels a little ambiguous.
Yes, and that honestly is one of the things that is the most close to what's detailed in the poem. Because that is the actual exchange they share.
Yeah.
So that one, the whole thing. it was just really good. And I appreciate that they don't specifically give you answers. I think in a film like this, it gives it a bit more power.
Yeah, I think that's there's always the undertone in a lot of like any of the situations that he's in throughout this movie of the situation, the people in the situation that he's in with know more than he does.
Yeah.
Right. So even the kid or whatever that set him up to get robbed on the
the ruffian.
Yeah, on the road
Scavenger.
by the
Yes.
by the river or whatever. Even in that situation when he's just talking to him as he's trying to find out where to go, you have the feeling that he knows something. Obviously, he knows that he's going to send him down this road and rob him. But
Yeah.
you have that feeling.
Oh, yeah. He knew.
Yeah. You have the feeling when he's talking to the ghost that she knows she's dead, but he doesn't know it yet.
Mhm.
So, I mean, each one of these situations, it's supposed to, I think, kind of give you an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, each one of those things, I remember how beautifully shot it was.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I keep remembering is the visuals, the landscape, even the scene that they did after he's been tied up, how
Mhm.
they turn the camera one
Yeah, that
direction
was
and
awesome.
everything dies, and then they turn it back and he fights and gets out of the binds. I just thought that was such a cool shot.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, and it was also kind of a foreshadowing of like the
What
ability
happens
in
at
the
the
movie to kind of go, well, this is what happened if this was what would happen if you,
Yep.
in this
Yes,
case,
exactly.
did nothing, or this is what would happen if you run away like a chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for at the end with the chapel. After he had run away and his castle was under siege, I was just waiting for it to turn back the other direction and give us a reset. But we didn't see the reset.
No.
So you never know what might have happened.
One thing I do want to make sure we mention is the way that almost every major interaction that he comes across kind of represents one of the 5 pillars of virtue for Arthurian knights. Between you have like the fact that not every one of them is directly related, but you have like the fact that he's in a brothel on New Year, starts Christmas Day in a brothel, kind of representing how he's failed at piety. He barely gives anything to the scavenger, and only after being asked for it, to show how he fails at generosity. I mean, he sleeps in a random person's bed, with the whole what's her name, Winfred situation, to show how he fails at courtesy. He's got chastity with the lady that he fails with, and then friendship with the way he fails with the fox, the guide, and the person that's been leading them the whole time.
Yeah.
And just how he falls down on every one of these knightly virtues. And it kind of leads up to that running away as a coward. And it's only throughout this journey does he grow into the hero and finally take the sash off to face his fate.
To get his head lobbed off.
Possibly.
Yeah, it definitely is a build up to his ultimate downfall.
Maybe not even. Oh, well, as far as like the failures into becoming king, because I genuinely feel that becoming king is the downfall.
Yes.
I feel like it's the integrity. It's the virtue of it is better to lose honorably than it is to win deceitfully.
Yes, and that's what I mean by I think his ultimate downfall is that he became king in a false way.
As
if
a
that
liar.
makes sense. Yes. Yeah, as a coward.
Mhm.
He skipped out and he lied. And so obviously nothing's going to work because you've failed at every step of the way in what it means to be a good person, much less a good king.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so I think ultimately when he gets to reset and he does step up and find his courage, I like to pretend that he gets another shot and it goes better.
Yeah, it almost kind of ties into the Platonic ideas of the time, which would not be that shocking for the philosophers of that time, because of the whole life of virtue is the best life to be lived. And that, there's the whole famous dialogue between Socrates and I can't remember the other guy who's advocating being as deceitful as possible in a non-virtuous life, because that's how you get everything you want. And to be a total but yeah, I don't know. I loved this movie. I absolutely loved this movie. It has so much deep meaning. It is incredibly shot, incredibly acted. And while I do understand if you're going into it looking for medieval battles and like a through plot, it could be disappointing. And I fully understand that and recognize it. I think it's actually really impressive that they made an entire medieval timepiece movie with pretty much zero fights. There's a single person getting their head cut off, but no action or battle before it. And then there's a person who is just basically held at arrow point and then bum rushed and taken down and tied up immediately.
Yeah.
There's not even a punch thrown in that section.
Even the battle at the end.
Yeah. And then, is that even a battle at the end?
They never show you, but somebody's trying to break down the door, so it's insinuated that a battle is occurring. But yeah, you never see any of it.
Mm-hmm. That's impressive that they had the balls to do that.
Yeah, I loved it.
They did it very well.
It's a cool movie that gives you just enough to let you think you know what's happening, but then you stop and you question it and you're like, oh God, I have no idea what just happened, but that's so cool.
Yeah,
which is
it's very true.
It's also interesting to me that more people don't like. I guess the 70% Metacritic or user score makes sense to me, because the show like Game of Thrones that had great battles and lots of combat and action and stuff like that also had a lot of time that was very similar to this, into more of the wilderness and the spooky parts and things like that. That it felt kind of slow, but was building to something. And I don't know. I feel like there's a good audience that should appreciate this.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and I think that people that go to watch this movie not to see a medieval knight's tale, and that appreciate movies will really like this movie. I think it has been made hard not to. Because they did such a good job in so many different areas that even if you enjoy movies and you didn't have like completely different expectations than what you actually see, I think it's hard not to go, huh, they did a really good job.
Yeah. I personally cannot wait to watch this movie in my own house.
Yeah,
because the amount of commentary people made, or the noises, just the ew. I don't need to hear that. This movie is amazing, and I need you to shut up.
So I didn't experience that. I had some people next to us explaining the movie to someone else, but
oh, that's good.
But it wasn't in a negative light or anything.
Oh, we got some of those people that make a lot of comments and a lot of noises about things they disagree with, which is fine. No. It just, they expected.
It's not fine. You're in a movie theater. Shut the hell up.
I seriously am surprised they had tracheas after the movie with Daniel being there.
Yeah, there was a large group of them.
They were too far away.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But anyways, no. Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Yeah.
Did you guys stick around for the after credit scene?
Uh-oh.
No, we had to escape, but there was an after credit scene we missed.
Like mid-credit scene. It was really short. It showed a little girl playing, and then she picked up the crown and put it on.
Nope, missed that.
But what does that even mean?
I don't know.
Curiosity.
Because when Gawain ran away and ended up fathering a child in that with what was her name?
Ethel.
Yeah, Ethel. Ethel.
Yeah. It was a boy.
That was a son. So is this, I don't know,
proof of a restart?
proof that he didn't get killed?
Right.
Yeah, that he gets a second chance, or that someone else got a chance. I don't know. That's confusing.
So what does that mean? No idea. But
Not a clue. Yeah,
All right,
especially not seeing it. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Not a clue.
even more reason to watch this when it comes out, or go see it again in theaters. I probably will go see it again, because I went with a friend, and when I got home, I wouldn't stop raving about it to my girlfriend, and now she wants to see it, and I am totally going to go with her.
Well, there you go.
It's a good idea.
And that's how you do that.
Exactly. So, do you guys want to get into favorite scenes?
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, I guess I will go first.
I was about to say, okay.
Who wants to go first?
There are a lot of great scenes in this movie, and it is, I know I say this every time, but this one particularly, it was so well crafted. They all seem to be very similar in quality. They're all insanely good. For me, though, it has to be near the beginning, Christmas at Arthur's Round Table, the conversation that Gawain has with Arthur, or the king, I should call him, about how he doesn't have any stories to tell, and that kind of the self-realization that he hasn't done anything with his life. Right. And that's the moment that fortune kicks the door in. The Green Knight, which not only represents life and growth and nature, but when he walks in, if I'm not mistaken, he's holding either mistletoe above his head or a holly leaf, which both holly branch, which both holly branches and mistletoe are poisonous. Green can also represent death and putrefaction, that being part of nature as well, and just the whole interaction and the mystery that it brings up, and the way that Dev Patel shows that confusion and uncertainty. I don't know. It set up the rest of the movie and set a tone for it that I was fully bought in from that point. And being so early, I loved it. I absolutely loved this movie, and a lot of it was all kind of predicated on that individual scene. So for me, it was the inciting incident. Yeah,
that was such a cool introduction. Even the sound.
Mm-hmm.
The way that it's totally silent, except for him creaking and the hoofbeats.
Mm-hmm.
It was just amazing. But also important to note that in this film, green is supposed to signify Gawain's downfall. Which is why when they're at the house, at the manor, and she gives that whole speech on green. And the sash is green, and the Green Knight, and all these things, they're supposed to represent his challenges and his mistakes. Which I thought was just really cool. But yes, I'm with you. That was one of my favorite quotes. Tell me a tale so that I may know thee.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah, that was very good.
Awesome choice.
Good scene.
Thank you. All right. Who's up next? We're just free rolling it here.
I'll go.
All right.
We already actually talked about mine.
Okay. We talked about a lot of scenes, so.
Yeah, it's when he's tied up in the forest. And they do the slow pan in the circle.
Such a good one.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the imagery of that. I like like I said, it's also foreshadowing. So I like that they use that moment to do some foreshadowing and how the story would go later on. But also in that moment, when they start the pan, he had just kind of given up.
Mm-hmm.
He just kind of, he'd had enough. He was just limp. And that's when they started the pan. And to illustrate what that decision would mean, you don't really know until you get to the end of the pan, where he's still laying there dead and a skeleton.
Yeah, it was a literal and metaphorical crossroads for Gawain.
Yeah, absolutely. And he had obviously been there for a very long time because he was all bone.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really appreciated the way that they did that, and the fact that they even put something like that in there. It was just a very nice kind of artistic touch that made the movie stand out to me, and how it was filmed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's also kind of the first time you really start to see the fox. He's just a little thing trotting around as they start the pan.
Mm-hmm.
Just enough that you notice him, but not enough that he's a thing yet.
Yeah, he's coming to eat him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he's there for.
A snack.
This is what happens if you don't move. Your fox friend eats your throat.
But just another time they use sound awesomely.
Also, do you think the fox was just like a spirit guide, or do you think that was Morgan Le Fay, his mother?
I think it was just a spirit guide.
Yeah.
That's the way I lean anyway.
I lean that Morgan was watching over him the whole time, because either the fox was following him or the old lady inside the manor where the fox couldn't go.
Yeah, I think the old lady is her.
Well,
Shit.
she's
Not
also
her,
in
but,
the poem. The old lady is revealed to be Morgan Le Fay, isn't it?
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember that. She is Morgause, but I'm not sure that she's Morgan. I don't remember that.
But yeah, I kind of interpreted the fox as her keeping an eye on him. Also, that's why the fox told him to turn back, because the Green Knight would kill him.
Well, yeah, but the fox also basically shamed him for continuing to wear the green belt.
That too.
That's why I'm kind of,
Maybe.
That's why
I don't
I'm
know.
not sure.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It is a good question that you had.
Just a curiosity.
Well, I feel like it's a good question that the movie posed.
Yes.
I'm just asking it out loud so that we can discuss it. So I don't get credit for that one.
Fair enough.
Sure.
But yeah, that was
very
my
good
theme.
choice.
That is a good choice. Yeah.
Nice one.
Okay.
All right. Well, that leaves you, Rachel. What do you got?
I'm last. So I'm going to go with my favorite scene was when he goes to the little house to seek shelter.
Mm.
And the ghost appears and she's distraught because she cannot find her head or she cannot reach her head. She knows
Right.
where it is. And I just thought, again, such an interesting shot to see him dive into that water, and they just have all the different colors behind him and the bubbles. And I was always a little nervous watching it, expecting something else to happen in the water.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if something would grab him or if there were other things going on.
Or even a lady in the water.
Yes, or if she would
Lady of the lake.
If she would be in the water when he jumped in there.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a good scene, and also a good window into his deeper character. That once he did replace her head, his axe did reappear.
Mm-hmm. I also like how he kind of failed at it early on. When she asked him to retrieve the head, he asked, "What would you give me in return?" And her response is just disgusted. Why would you ask me that?
Yes.
That if he had just gotten it, it would have been a chivalrous act. But the fact that he expected something in return tainted the entire experience.
Well, and what's interesting about that is that I don't think that was a question in his mind at first.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until he was actually looking at jumping into the pond and getting wet.
Yeah.
And then maybe he thought about the people that had just robbed him.
Yeah.
Where it was,
I did think.
Does my advice mean nothing to you?
I did think she was going to do
Is my
something evil
advice
to
worth
him.
Nothing to you, I guess.
He returned her head, but he dared ask what she'd give him for it. So thought there might be something waiting for him in that house.
Yeah, her dead
It was
body.
a skeleton.
Yeah. All in all, just a really cool scene. And yeah, I like Erin Kellyman a lot. She's a very cool actress. So.
Yeah, she's done
Very
some
good
interesting
choice.
things.
Yep. But that was mine.
Yep.
Love it.
Nice. Very nice.
All right. Well, then that just about covers our coverage of The Green Knight. Hopefully you enjoyed our coverage of it as much as you did. We enjoyed the movie, just in case you didn't like the movie, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So I'm just going to go ahead and sign up. Make sure you go online and like and subscribe. And please join us next time on Were You Not Entertained?